Hello and welcome. This video is going to be an introduction to Unreal Engine 4 code, sort of a crash course for coding, if you will. We're going to go through the process of starting a new project. We'll implement a simple feature and maybe show a few interesting other things along the way. I'm going to assume that you have installed Visual Studio or Xcode beforehand. You downloaded the Unreal Engine 4 source from GitHub, followed all the directions there, and managed to successfully build the engine once. I'm also going to show everything on a PC, but if you're on a Mac, you should be able to follow along just fine as well. If you do want to follow along and you haven't done these steps, now would be a good time to pause and go do that. If not, let's get going. All right, the first thing I want to show is you already did this if you've built, but we have this generate project files batch file. This batch file will do what it says. It'll generate the project files for you. So this is handy to run from time to time if you're manually adding or removing source code files from your project. It's not required to compile or run or anything like that, but it will make your life a little easier sometimes to have those files show up in your IDE. So if you want to get them in your IDE, that's a nice way to do that. Also, and this is going to be more of interest to Visual Studio users, we have a couple things to make your lives easier. One is this UE4 NatViz file. You can install it with this batch file right here. This will customize the display of some of our Unreal specific common types in the debugger to make them easier to use, so you don't have to go digging through in your watch windows to find values that you're interested in. So I highly recommend installing that. And if you are a full version of Visual Studio 2013 user, this won't work for Express, but this Unreal VS plugin will give you a little toolbar, which is handy for a couple common workflows in Unreal. So I would definitely recommend installing that as well if it is available. And I'll show this to you in a couple minutes. Okay, so let's find our solution file and open it up. Okay, a couple things I want to point out here real fast. This drop down right here is the platform drop down. We'll stick with 164 for now, but if you were going to build for another platform, that would be the place you would choose that. Here in the solution configuration drop downs, typically you're going to want to build one of these editor configurations because it builds in the editor, and it's very useful to have the editor for developing your product. So the big difference between debug and debug game and development here, you're going to be kind of choosing a trade-off between runtime speed and debuggability, with development being the most highly optimized but the least debuggable, and debug being the least optimized but most easily debuggable. I tend to stay in debug as much as possible because I like being able to step through my code and trust what the debugger is telling me. If you're spending a lot of time working kind of exclusively in your game code and you're not stepping down into the engine very often, the debug game configuration is very useful for those scenarios. It'll optimize all of the engine modules, but it will leave your game modules in debug mode, so you can debug what you want to debug and still get some good performance. Also want to show this toolbar right here is the Unreal VS toolbar, which I mentioned earlier. So we have two key drop downs here. This first one is the project, like the startup project. It's really a shortcut for picking a project out of here and saying set a startup project. So instead of having to go dig through this panel over here, you can just kind of get a little short drop down of what you want. And this one right here is the command line drop down. It comes with a little history built into it, and that's really a shortcut for opening up your project settings and saying, here's my command line arguments. You can do a lot with command line arguments in Unreal, and it's a very nice way to quickly set what you want to set without having to dig through a bunch of menus. Okay, so let's run our editor, and I'll show you how to set up a new project. Okay, so Since we didn't select any project, we're just kind of running the raw engine here. So it's going to ask us if we want to open or create a project. If you had some projects, you'd see this and you could pick a project that you've already made. But since we don't have one, let's make a new one. So here, let's. So if you want to start completely clean, you can pick blank or basic code, and it basically gives you a completely clean slate to deal with. We also have several templates down here you can choose from. Which are nice little accelerators if you want to just you kind of know vaguely what you want and you want something to play with. So let's make a side scroller. I'm going to leave this box here checked because I want to copy the starter content into it, into the new project. So this way, we have some toys in our toy box that we can play with, and it's about lunchtime, so let's make this project about pizza because pizza is delicious. So we're going to go ahead and create that. You can see it's copying in the starter content. It's going to go ahead and basically fully set up our project in a compilable state for us. And here it has opened up a new Visual Studio for us, and we should be ready to go. So you can see, we still have our engine code in our solution. Here's our pizza game code. You can see what it gave us. It gave us a couple files here. So like this is our our precompiled header. This is the module implementation. It's given us code for a basic character, so we'll have somebody that we can, there's a guy we can run around, and it also gave us an implementation of a customized game mode, and a game mode is typically like a set of rules and stuff that defines your game. In this case, it just tells us to, let's use one of our pizza characters that it made for us. So let's go ahead and build this and see what it did for us. I'm actually going to stop this because change my mind. Let's set this to debug editor so we can use our debugger. And also I forgot to set this, so this is important. We want to actually build our pizza project, and you can see it altered the command line for us to load that up by default. So now let's build it. Okay, so now we have our editor loaded up, and you can see we're editing our pizza project. If this is your first time in the editor, just a quick tour here. This over here is our content browser. This is where we're, all the content in the game is accessible. You can see we have quite a bit of stuff in here, and this is our starter content that we got copied in. This over here is the scene outliner. In the 3D window, you can navigate around and click on things and select them, or you can select them through the scene outliner. It's a nice quick way if you don't want to try and pixel hunt sometimes. And when you'll notice if you have something selected, it shows up here in the details panel, like a lot of information about it that you can edit or see. One nice thing when you're using code builds is you'll notice this link up here. This will take us to the class definition of the object that you selected. So in this case, I've selected a player start, and I can click on player start.h, and here I'm in player start.h, and I can look and see, read the comments and see what properties there are, and that can be a potentially useful feature for quickly navigating between the editor and the code. So let's go back to the editor real fast. Also want to show this feature up here that we call this play in editor. So you can click on play and actually play your game, play your level right here in the viewport. So as you can see, we have it's a side scroller. You can run around, you can jump, and you can jump again. So about what you'd expect. So let's make this a little more interesting. Let's we call it pizza, so let's make a power up in our game here, like a pizza power up that we can pick up, because collecting little floating things is a side scroller staple. So first things first, we need to add a code module or a code class for our power up. So let's make a base power up class, and then we'll go ahead and customize that once we get back in the editor. So here in the file menu, we have this option to add code to project. This is a nice quick way to handle a lot of the Unreal specific boilerplate So I click on that, and I can choose my parent class, and we have here, a list of commonly used parent classes. You can see. If you want to see them all, you can click on this, and you get the full tree of parentable classes. But really, what we want is something fairly simple, and we're going to choose actor because an actor is our basic, the most basic thing that kind of exists in the world. So let's go ahead and pick actor, and select next, and we're going to call this a power up. So this will just be the base class for all of our power ups. And it's going to update our solution file in our projects and copy in the code files for us, and it's done. So yes, we'd like to edit it. I'm going to go ahead and reload our environment and stop debugging. So as you can see here, we now have two new files, our power up header and our power up implementation file, and it's given us the class definition here, and we're ready to go. So just as a sort of a quick tour around an Unreal class, if you will. Let's check out one of these. As you can see, if you recall back to Unreal Engine 3, we had a special language for defining classes and for scripting, and in Unreal Engine 4, we're using straight native C++ and simply decorating the properties and classes and structures and functions that we think are interesting and that we want the Unreal Object System to know about. So in this case, our pizza character, is a U class, right? This side view camera component is a U property, which means it'll show up in the editor, and you'll get lots of other benefits about. So let's go back to our power up class. So thinking about how our power up should behave, we want our little guy to run across and touch it and pick it up, right? So we need something that we can touch. So let's keep this simple, and we're gonna have a property for a sphere. So this is going to be our touch sphere. It's a sphere component. I've tagged as U property so that we can see it in the editor, and we can edit its properties if we need to. And then now that we have this variable, let's go ahead and create it in our constructor. So you can see we made us our constructor already. And I'm just gonna paste in. Okay, so you can see our touch sphere. We are going to create it. It's a sphere component. This is the owner of, who owns the sub-object. So that'll be, us. The power up is going to own its own sub-object. We're going to set its radius to 20. By default, that's 20 centimeters. And we're going to set it as the root component, which means it's the, if you think of an actor as as being able to contain a hierarchy of, kind of physical components, little blocks you can assemble. This one's going to be the root. So, anything else we want to attach to this, we can hang off of this sphere, but this will be the base of the hierarchy. So, to make it interesting, let's also have our power up rotate to make it animate a little bit. So let's give it a rotation rate, and I'm going to make this a U property also, so it's editable in the editor. And this will be in degrees per second. And let's go ahead and initialize that in our constructor as well. So we'll have it spin at 180 degrees per second. And in order to actually do the updating, let's override the actor's tick function. This is a function that will get called every frame. And we can implement it thusly. So you can see what we're doing here is in our tick function, first order business, we're going to go ahead and just call our superclasses tick, so we don't want to skip anything important that it might be doing. And then in our code, we're going to get our current rotation into an F rotator. An F rotator is an Unreal structure that contains the Euler angles of an orientation. So it's pitch, yaw, and roll. And we're going to take its roll, and we're going to increment it by the amount of rotation we have done this frame, and then go ahead and just set it back to ourselves. We're going to set our own rotation to the newly updated rotation. One more thing we need to do is that actors do not tick by default. for efficiency reasons. So we need to tell it that it is allowed to tick, like so. So can ever tick is true. That all looks good. So let's go ahead and build this and see what we've done. Okay, we're back in the editor, and so we've made our base class power up, but now we want to make a specific power up. So we're going to use the blueprint system for this. A blueprint, or a class blueprint in this case, is essentially an editor-defined subclass of a native class or of another blueprint class. So you can actually extend code using only the editor. So let's go ahead and demonstrate this. I'll go ahead and make one. We'll call it, let's see, new blueprint. You can pick your parent class, and since we want to make it power up, we're going to come down here to custom classes and look for power up. There it is. And now we have our blueprint. So let's name it a pizza power up. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and edit that. Okay, just sort of a quick tour around the blueprint interface here. A couple different parts of a blueprint. I mean, you can think of this as just sort of a visual, representation of a code class. It's the same concept. We have a bunch of defaults. These are the default values for the pizza power up, almost like a constructor, if you will. You can see the one we just added. Rotation rate is here, and a bunch of other things you can set. So these are the default properties of a pizza power up in your world. The graph is kind of where behavior code would go. Like you can set respond to events, and every tick. We could have done our rotation here if we wanted to, but we didn't. And here in the components, we can sort of, before I was talking about a hierarchy of components, and here we can sort of assemble that hierarchy visually instead of trying to type in coordinates and stuff and offsets in code. So this is a really nice way to visually construct our actors. So you can see we created our touch sphere in code, and here it is at the root of our hierarchy. So let's give this a mesh so we have something we can see. And I know in the shapes here we have a wedge shape, which is vaguely pizza-like. So let's go ahead and add a static mesh component to this under the touch sphere. So it'll be attached to the touch sphere. Now that looks awful big for pizza. Maybe it's a deep dish, but I like New York style pizza. So let's go ahead and scale this guy a little bit. There we go, and I'm going to rotate him so he kind of faces the camera by default. That looks vaguely pizza shaped, a little gray, but can't be picky. Okay, and then in the graph, let's go ahead and give it a simple behavior. So let's say when we touch it, we want it to just disappear for now, just to kind of test if this is working. So we're going to use our overlap functionality. So if any actor overlaps this actor, which means overlaps the sphere in this case. So when this happens, we will go ahead and just destroy the actor. So we'll destroy him. If you wanted to do anything interesting, like increase health or something, this would be a great place to do it. But we'll keep it simple for right now. One more thing I want to do, let's go back to the component here. I'm going to turn off collision on the static mesh also, because it's on by default, and it's really just there to look pretty since we're actually going to interact with the sphere. So let's go ahead and just turn that off because I don't want to get stuck on them. Okay, we'll close this guy and go ahead and play and see what happens. Oh, well, nothing happened because I didn't put one down. All right, we'll go back to the blueprints real quick. Let's put one of these in the world. That would help so we can see it. And, okay, that looks pretty good. All right, now we'll play. There it is. Look, and it's rotating. And if I walk over and touch it, it goes away. Beautiful. First try. Well, second try. So, but one thing I don't like here is this is rotating. I wasn't really anticipating this would rotate like this. I wanted it to rotate like this, which is not easy to describe with my mouse cursor. But let's try and change the axis of rotation on this to make it match what I had in my head. So let's go back to the code real quick. And you can see we were rotating about the roll. Let's change that to the yaw axis. So go ahead and save that and go back to the code. So this is a great opportunity to demonstrate our compile, our hot reload and compiling feature. So Now that I've changed my code, I can come up here to compile and say recompile the game code, and it will kick off a compile of the game library and reload it when it's finished, assuming there were no compile errors. And this is a great feature for being able to make little tweaks to the code without having to completely bring down and restart the editor. It doesn't work in all cases. Like if you add new properties to a U class or change your U class constructors or something like that, it doesn't handle those cases. But if you're just kind of making little tweaks to your code, like you messed up your matrix math or something like that, quick iterations. This is a wonderful feature for quickly turning those kinds of things around. Okay, so our compile is finished. Let's go ahead and hit play and see what happens. And there it is. It's rotating about the yaw axis now instead of the roll axis, just like we wanted, or just like I wanted at least. And I can still touch it, and it still works. And excellent, ship it. All right. If you want to find out more about coding Unreal, I highly recommend checking out some of the docs and on the website and some of the other videos. There's a lot more information about the object model and different data structures and stuff that come with Unreal. So thanks for watching, and have fun.